to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'd like to take time to please silence your phones. Hope everybody's continuing to have a great summer. Our first order of business, public announcements. Details may be found at www.fairfieldme.com. Nomination papers for the November 4th municipal election are available and due September 4th by 4:30 p.m. Town council, 2 seats for a 3-year term and 1 seat for a 1-year term. Kennebec Water District trustee, 1 seat for a 3-year term. Absentee ballots for the September 2nd MSAD 49 budget referendum election are available at the town office until Thursday, August 28, 2025. Voted ballots must be returned to the city clerk no later than 8 p.m. on September 2nd. Town office late hours for voter registration and absentee voting will be Tuesday, August 26, from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. Summer concerts in Memorial Park are held Fridays, 6 to 7:30. This Friday, August 22nd, will be the last in the series of summer concerts for this summer. All non-emergency town offices will be closed on Monday, September 1st for the Memorial Day holiday. I'm sorry, Labor Day. Correction. Lawrence Public Library. Author and retired Maine guide Tim Cavalier's program, So You Think You Know Maine, Saturday, September 13th at 11 a.m. Summer reading prizes will be available the week of August 25th. Patron pass to Coastal Maine Botanical Gardens now available. Call for more information and to reserve tickets. Public hearings, we have none. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Members of the public may speak to the council or request an opportunity to speak on a specific item that is on the agenda, or may email comments for the council to info@fairfield-me.gov by 4 p.m. day of meeting. Submitted content may be read aloud at this time. We have any public comments, or anybody want to reserve time on a specific item? Seeing none, we'll move on to the fourth order of business, reports and staff committees. Town manager report.
Good evening. So it's been a while since we've met, so it seems like a long list, but it really isn't. So July 25th through August 1st, I was on vacation. August 5th, I attended the Economic Community Development meeting, which Councillor Thibodeau will speak to. Also that evening, attended the Building Committee meeting, which Councillor Lawrence will speak to. August 11th, I met with Maine Connectivity Authority about a potential leasing of space on municipal property for their broadband expansion project that they have going throughout the state. There's some more information that I need for further discussions, but then ultimately that will end up coming to the council as to whether or not that's something you want us to pursue. August 12th through the 15th, I attended the Maine Town City Managers Association's Managers Institute at Sunday River. Training included AI management policies, paid family medical leave, legislative updates, etc. Contacts were made with the University of Maine Athletic Director. I had an opportunity to discuss with him the town's potential ice arena project, which they had actually already heard about. So that was very exciting, and want to have conversations with that committee once they get up and going, so to make sure that you remember all the bits and pieces. August 19th, I attended the KBCOG Board of Directors meeting, as well as a second Building Committee meeting, which Councilor Lawrence will talk to. And then just as a reminder, First National Wealth Management is scheduled to be at your September 10th meeting. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Councilor Thibodeau, Economic Development.
Thank you. The committee met on August 5th. Progress is being made on the new downtown plan draft, and it should be ready for the council's approval by December. Progress is being made on bush hogging and invasive plant mitigation on Mill Island. On September 2nd at 6 p.m., the Economic and Community Development Committee's monthly meeting will be at Mill Island Park for the formation of a volunteer group called the Friends of Mill Island Park. This group's mission will be to provide needed assistance for the beautification of Mill Island through small projects and fundraising. All activities will be in accordance with the council's approval. A handout has been provided concerning this within your papers. On September 30th, the Economic and Community Development Committee will host the third info session on emergency preparedness at the community center. State and county emergency management agencies will discuss how to help our community be prepared for severe weather events, and the Community Emergency Response Team Program for individuals, neighborhood representatives, and for businesses. This is also called CERT, the Community Emergency Response Team. Discussion will also focus on evacuation planning and best practices for sheltering. This meeting is being promoted not only regionally, but throughout the county. There is a QR code for people to use for showing their intent to attend the session, and this is so that we are able to provide the best seating here at the community center. In January, as a result of the CERT introduction, there will be 3 sessions for community response team training here at the community center. Again, this is going to be done, advertised regionally. This is also being provided for our for our residents. The Economic and Community Development Committee will meet the first Tuesday in October for a regular meeting here at the community center.
What time will the Friends of Mill Island
6
Park
o'clock.
meet? And how about the CERT meeting on September 30th?
6 o'clock
Oh,
here.
6 o'clock. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, one thing to say, if you want to attend the September 2nd, make sure you vote first, because it's during the
right.
voting time, so.
Thank you, Peter.
Okay. Councilor Townsend, environmental?
No report. We will be looking at starting our first meetings in early September, once we have everybody's schedule.
You. And Councilor Lawrence, building?
Okay, on the building committee, we had 2 meetings in August. The first one was August 5th at 5 o'clock. We met at the police station. We had a tour with the chief, and we asked his needs for a new building. The current building is no space is allowed left to expand. It's still sinking. So he has a 2-member crew actually going to do the needs for a new building. So he's going to get that back to us. Then we went to the town office afterwards with the town manager to tour that place. There's security needs. There's no security needs at the town office. There's lack of. They need more space and things like that. So then we came back and have another meeting on that to discuss what the findings were. So everyone discussed it was just a lack of everything in every building. So the needs and things like that. It keeps sinking, and there's no access to ADA access. There's no way to get the public can get in. It's locked, but someone's there. The walls are very thin. You hear in the main office to down the hall. So it's just still the same. Then we met again. What's that?
It's just an old building.
Yeah, it's just an old building, yeah. And then we met again yesterday, August 19th at 5 o'clock at the fire station, the Center Street Fire Station. And Chief sent us through that. They did a lot of cleaning out of the building, but the committee still thinks there's no expansion for that building at all. There's no way, because there's a tank that's on another someone else's property. So then we came back and looked at the other fire station. That one's still sinking a little bit. And also, too, Chief Leary had to move out of his office since they picked up a couple more employees. He's actually his office is storage. That's his office. There's no way for the expansion of the fire station. We saw the pins. They're on some, way close to the building. There's no way to stand, so, and our next meeting is September 22nd at 5:30. We're going to discuss the findings and waiting to see what the other road. We're going to have a road trip in October to look at other locations, and we just wait for information from the town manager on that, and plus the findings from the chiefs on what they want for their new building. So, any questions from the council or?
That's great, that.
That's good first steps.
Yep. Everything we expected to hear as
Yep.
well. Ice Steering Committee, applications, we're looking for ad hoc members. I think we have until September what, Michelle?
Was it the 9th? Yeah, the 9th.
September 9th, so we've got a couple starting to trickle in, and I'm looking forward to see some more. Nothing yet. We'll probably, once we have our appointments, try to get going in October on our first meetings there. Okay, I think that's it for committee reports. Fifth order of business, consent agenda. These items are considered routine or standard business and therefore will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests prior to consideration of this portion of the agenda, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered next on the agenda. Item 25-86, order that the Fairfield Town Council hereby waives the reading of and accepts the minutes for the meeting 2025-14 held on July 23rd, 2025. Item 25-87, order that the Town Council hereby approves the Treasurer's Warrant number 139 for the general fund for fiscal year ending 24-25 in the amount of $4,119.89 to include but not limited to B&H Photo Video, UniFirst Corporation, and Stryker Sales Corp., and warrant number 63, general fund, in the amount of $626,741.54 to include, but also not limited to, MSAD number 49, Southworth Milton Incorporated, Maine Municipal Employee Health Trust, and motor vehicle fees.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
Sounds good.
Seeing none, all those in favor? 5-0. Sixth order of business, hold council business. Website, the town clerk is updating information, making changes to the website, while the department heads are reviewing their pages for accuracy. How's that coming along?
Really good.
Tedious?
Yeah, it looks, in my opinion anyways, it looks really nice. I'm excited to get it out there.
Excited to see that up and running.
Do we have an estimated date that we can pin down? We've kind of been dragging this on for a while. I just say in June, it said it'll be up soon or whatever. I know the department heads are looking at it. I had offered to come in and take a look if you wanted. Just curious if we have a goal timeline for that.
So when we started this process, we made sure everybody was aware that this could take up to a year, and that was not unreasonable. So where we're at right now is that we think we have most all of the bad data that was transferred over out, and we're still trying to make sure that that's there. Every time we think we have it, something else pops up with another link. So the hope is within, and I hate using actual days, but within the next 2 months, we'll be able to have a version that we can get out to the council so you can take a look at it before we go live with it. But the department heads have finished their pieces. I have some pieces left to do, but we think we're close. It's going faster than the year, but a lot of it was because a lot of data was removed from the old one when they did the transfer, but there was still so much in there hidden in the background. It didn't get it all. So we're still, and what we don't want to do is go live with a website that is just as terrible as the one we had before, because then nobody will trust the information that's
Yep.
in that one either. So we really want to make sure that it's right.
And just for the record, if any of our residents need any information that is not doesn't seem to be updated, they can contact the town office, and we'll get them that
Yeah,
information.
definitely.
And anything that was current on our old website is all still there. Like, the old website is still accessible to folks. So like the volunteer application is still on our old website. All of those things, we're just not actively adding new, like, meeting minutes to it or that sort of stuff. But anybody who wants that certainly can contact us and get that at any time.
And I've been updating our new website in real time, so all of the stuff that we've been doing as far as council minutes, I've been putting all of the agendas and minutes on there, so when we go live, it will all be current and up to date.
All the back stuff will be there.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Fairfield Benton Fire Agreement, a joint town council and select board meeting is scheduled for September. Forward to
Hoping
that.
is scheduled for September. I haven't nailed down a date yet, but it looks as though it'll be your second meeting in September.
Did we discuss who the council member was going to be that goes to that,
It's
to represent?
it's gonna be all council.
This was all.
Says,
No, I don't.
be scheduled for September as joint town council and select board. So, joint. It's gonna be all council.
All right,
and all
I
select.
mean, that's fine. I just remember we had discussed that one or two should be there, but if we're all there, then that's fine too.
You never picked anybody or appointed anybody to fulfill that
What's
role.
that?
I said, no one
Appointed.
counselor was ever picked to fulfill that role, which if we do individual meetings, you certainly can do that, but this one being a joint one may just take care of all of it. So they are working with some things on their end, and the chief and I continue to have conversations and send information to the chair in Benton, so hopefully we'll be able to lock this down. And it may be that it's not actually at your council meeting. We'll do a special workshop meeting for just the two, depending on how timing works.
Okay.
I'd like to actually see it as a special meeting.
So that's your only topic
Yeah.
of conversation.
Yeah.
Sometimes that works better, and
Yeah.
that's what we've done with them before in the past.
That way
Like
we
when
have
the
chief
fire
and all
audit
the
came out And
information.
that kind of stuff, it was much easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Community Center grant. The grant has been extended until November 1st, 2025, so that funds can be used to install the dishwasher. Is that the last remaining piece on the grant?
It is.
Yep.
So the toilets and the urinals are handicap accessible in that bathroom, and a low flow there's no more efficiencies to be garnered based upon the toilets that we do have in there and the urinals that we have in there. It does appear when you go in that restroom that one is missing, but really one is missing, but it also enhances our handicap accessibility in that area. It appears right now, the current estimate on repairing the dishwasher, to hook up the dishwasher is about $6,000. It was hard piped. No one got back there and investigated that beforehand, so it was directly hard piped into the system. So there's some pieces that really need to be upgraded, and that's what happens when you try to put new technology into, a 50-year-old building, so.
We have enough left in the grant that will cover that?
Yeah.
Great, fantastic. Any other questions? Okay, the administrative fee schedule, anticipated amendments in September, will be good. Seventh order of business, this is an action item, to take action on the following items of business. Item 25-88, or the town council hereby accepts the resignation of Economic Community Development Committee member Tim Forsman effective July 14th, 2025, declares the position vacant and will accept applications from Fairfield residents.
So move.
Second.
A motion by Councilor Lawrence, second by Councilor Thibodeau. Any discussion?
Yeah, I would just like to say that Tim is going to be missed on the committee. He was very valuable. He had a lot of insight, and he really cared about what was going to happen within our town. So I wish him well in his new endeavor, and hope everybody goes and stays healthy and enjoy their retirement.
Yeah, we thank him for his time on that
Definitely.
committee.
How long are we going to accept applications for?
What's the deadline for applications, Michelle, usually?
You can set whatever you want, or just as soon as you get one, and we'll put it on for appointment.
Be a month?
Yeah, or as soon as one comes in.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
It'll be soon
We
as we
have a
get a
lot-
qualified one. That's
A lot
pretty
going
big-
on.
Big committee. So we have a motion, we have a second. We'll do as soon as we get a qualified individual applicant, bring it to the next meeting, put it to a vote at that time.
Sure.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous, 5-0. Item 25-89, order that the town council hereby considers appropriating funds to be taken from the undesignated fund balance to reduce the amount to be raised from taxation for the 25-26 fiscal year as per annual town meeting warrant Article 32. Need a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion by Council Lawrence, seconded by Council Townsend. Discussion?
Do you want the,
So we have appropriated by that warrant article up to the amount of 1.3 million, Michelle?
yes. So what you have in front of you is the tax rate calculation sheet with the numbers that we have currently. So this includes the county tax bill, municipal appropriation, municipal revenue, and the current school assessment that we have. So the school budget that's up for vote on September 2nd to be ratified is less than the amount that's in this sheet. Okay, so the assessment we have was based upon the amount that was passed in May. The amount for September, based upon what I don't have it from the school, but what I did get is a decrease. It's 5.3 million, not the other, not the 5.4. So with using all of the
1.3.
1.3, you will, there's an arrow in my way. My sheet, I can't go back. With using all of the 1.3, based upon this calculation that you have, it is at a mill rate of 19.65, gives you an overlay of $95,439. So for those that may be new to tax commitments, the overlay is what we use to fund abatements. And what you don't want to do is have a number so small that if you have an abatement because you accidentally put in a 5 and you should have put in a 3, and it's a keystroke error, that you can't fund those. So we like to try to keep overlay. Overlay can be as low as 0%, but it can never be more than 5%. This doesn't even give you an overlay of 1%, but we're comfortable with it being around $95,000. Now, with the new number in September, and that if the school was brought down to 5.3, you could get away with a mill rate of 19.5, which is 1 mill increase, with an overlay of 111,000, which is 1%. So that's where that's at. So really what you need to do tonight is decide how much of the undesignated fund balance you want to use of that 1.3 million. And as I've stated, the 1.3 million will still put you at probably a 1 mil increase, as we thought would happen, based upon the increase of the staffing at the fire department, as well as the increase for the school, is what we kind of predicted. So that's where that's at.
I need a motion. I'd like to see it come in up to the 1.3. Doesn't mean Michelle will have to use the 1.3, but it gives her the authority that we voted on in the article at town meeting.
I would move to use the $1.3 million from the undesignated fund to help fund our tax collections,
Second.
Is that up to?
up to 1.3.
Okay, so we have a motion by Counselor Townsend, second by Counselor Lawrence. That will be to authorize to use up to 1.3 million in undesignated fund to reduce the amount raised by taxation in the 25-26 fiscal year.
As per Article, you
As
do
per
need to
Article.
include as per Article 32, because
32, yeah.
you're also already using 150,000 from
Okay.
undesignated fund offset paving, so.
To
It ends
amend
up being
to,
more.
as,
okay.
as
As per Article 32.
provided in Article 32.
I-
Thank you.
We know what you mean.
Yeah.
Everybody's good with the amendment. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? 5-0 unanimous.
Can I just give you one more quick update when it comes to tax commitment? So the plan right now is if the school budget passes on September 2nd, we will commit taxes on September 5th. The assessor will be in-house, so that is the current schedule. If the school budget does not pass on September 2nd, at your meeting on September 10th, we will have information for you, and you will have to decide whether you want to commit taxes based upon the best information that we have, which you are legally allowed to do, or whether you want to wait depending on what the school actually does. I don't know what the school is going to do if this doesn't pass. I have not had a conversation with Roberta about that, the superintendent about that, or any member of the school board. It would make logical sense that they would wait to hold another election in November, just for efficiencies for elections. I don't know as if you want to wait that long to commit taxes. The biggest reason is, one, we will start to run out of money, and two, you're getting dangerously close to having all of your tax payments due one right after the other, where we have 4 payments. So just something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
We'll keep you posted as that goes forward. It's an active, fluid situation, and that's where we're at, so.
We'll know more by our next September meeting anyway.
Well,
That will be
yes,
the
yes,
second.
we will know everything by your next September meeting,
Yeah.
yeah, because that's the 10th.
Kevin?
Yeah, so I'm looking at last year's commitment, and just for clarity, last year's minimum tax rate was 18.3, maximum was 19.2. Are we going to go with the minimum? On this sheet, it's 19.4. I would expect that will go, or are we going with the maximum? I see that you have the chosen of 19.6. Last year, I think we went with the minimum, didn't we?
We didn't go with the minimum,
No.
no, we were at 18.5 last year. So what happens with the tax rate form is that you have to take all of your value, your real estate, personal property, and then there are calculations that happen during the tax rate calculation. Let me show you. Let me share my screen again. So a tax rate calculation is made up of lots of components. Okay, so if you look up, okay, so at the very top of that page that you have your real estate value, your personal property value, total taxable value. So then you have the homestead exempt value underneath that. So that's all of the homesteads within our community, so that comes off the top. With a 76% reimbursement of the homestead value that we will get from the state. The Betty value, which is your business equipment tax reimbursement value, well, exemption, then it's reimbursed at 54, 59%. So we had a business here in town, for example, we picked up $3 million worth of personal property at one business. It's all exempt. The state will reimburse us 54% of that tax value. Okay, so that's how that works. Less captured assessed value, which this is going to lead into your next conversation. That $23,524.96 on that page, that's the value of all of our properties located, the new value of all of our properties located in all of our TIF districts. So what that number is that you have to raise otherwise, which is this highlighted TIF finance plan amount, that number changes every time you change the tax commitment, the mill rate. So then what you have to do, so once you know what all your values are, all your current values, all your exempt values, then you have to look at what all your expenses are, your appropriations. So you have your county tax, municipal tax, that TIF finance plan amount, right? So if the taxpayers, if the businesses aren't paying it, somebody has to pay it. So what that number becomes, the school assessment, and then you have your total. So then you have all the municipal's allowable deductions. One, we have to account for state municipal revenue sharing singly in the commitment. Our projected numbers right now through the state is 1.2 million. We use 1.150 because it is just an estimate. You have to allow for decreases. All other revenues, so that's excise tax, that's building permit fees, that's everything that's listed under revenues at the back of the book when you're looking at the spreadsheets. So then you have your total deductions and then the full amount that has to be raised by taxation. So then the formula gives you a minimum and a maximum rate. And the maximum rate is so that you don't, further down, like I had mentioned earlier, that the overlay doesn't go over the 5%, because by law you can't have any more than that, which means a municipality cannot use their tax commitment to generate revenue in and of itself. You're not allowed to do that. So then what you do is you try to figure out what's the best possible mill rate. Okay, so the minimum, like in this calculation, the minimum is 19.3. Well, if I change this number so you can see exactly what it looks like when it's fluid, and up on the screen, if I change that to 19.3, you see the overlay goes to $7,352. You could have one tax abatement that's more than that. Okay, and that's the minimum that we have in there. So, but if you use 0.0195, which is 1 mil higher than what we have, right, so just two minor points gets you to the point where you have a healthy overlay. We hope that there's no mistakes. And then again, anything extra that goes into the this just goes into the undesignated fund balance if you don't use it. And you just use it next year to offset taxes. But that's, so constantly you have to work with that. All right, but say you did, the way this works is the maximum is 0.02026. So you couldn't raise the mill rate 2 mils, right? So say you went 0.0205, it puts your overlay at more than 5%. That's why you're not legally allowed to do that. So what you want to do is you want to try to find a number that gives you that little bit of cushion you need in case there's any mistakes. And you're always going to have an overlay. It's the remainders of all of the math that's in there. That's always going to exist. But you do need that little bit of a cushion for your abatements, should you have any. But not so much that you're unnecessarily driving up the mill rate.
Last year, our overlay was 95,005, so pretty close.
Yep.
And we try to keep it as low as we can.
Yeah.
And what we also try not to do is you don't ever want to have a mill rate that jumps up and down. We have had years where we've set the mill rate and the overlay has been much higher, but that's because we knew that something was going to happen the following year. So say we had an odd random revenue in any one particular year. What you don't want to do is drop the mill rate too low just because you know you're going to turn around the next year and pull it back up. Because people, mostly for people who escrow their property taxes and their house payments, it has such a fluctuation and change in people's mortgages. And we try to create stability. Ultimately, it's the amount of expenses offset by the revenue that what we have to have. That's why when we continue to talk about the reval, the biggest thing is the number that you need to raise, the net that needs to be raised by taxation. These numbers could double. It's the amount that you have to raise that's most important. So no matter what happens during the reval process, it's your appropriations and your revenues that are most important for us to keep track of. I know people get nervous when we talk reval, but it's the amount you have to raise. So if the amount you raise has to go up, which is exactly what has happened this year, is the reason why your mill rate's going up. But that's where it's at the moment, and we'll keep you posted just as soon as we know.
Thank you.
Everybody good with that? Any more discussion?
Yeah, I just want to throw out there too for our residents, you know, as I looked at these numbers, I think it's key for them to understand that we had over an additional $500,000 in revenue as well this year. So we're doing, as a town, we're doing our part, collecting and doing what we need to do for revenue. So it's not for them just to focus at the, you know, what the municipal appropriations are, whatever the case may be. It's all of these numbers as a whole that Michelle just spent the time showing us where it all, I mean, it's simple math. We may not like it.
Those worried about economic development, Michelle told me today we added $9 million in new
Value.
property value for the town of Fairfield over
Right.
last year. So that's also in that assessment. And that'll get taxed. So that's pretty significant growth. That's a lot of new value when you look at maybe a standard home running 250,000. Again, that's businesses, that's everything, but that's $9 million in new tax value for the town. So it's definitely there. When we look at our total amount that we spend, the school's coming in around 51%, something like
Around
that,
there.
51, 52%. It always does. The town's 32, and then we have county, so that's how our taxes break down. And of course, that's all offset by our revenue. Obviously, our town budget's higher, but we have revenue that offsets that, just like the school has, you know, their budget, and they offset with their revenue to get that decreased. They determine the amount that we pay by enrollment and assessment, and we have our portion of local share, just like the other 4 towns in our district. So it's a good breakdown. It should give you a good idea where we're at. We anticipated about $1 million when we knew we were gonna add 3 firemen and with the school. So that's right where we're at. We're gonna add about $1 million. And the school budget's not voted on completely yet. So that's with what was passed recently. It's a good start for where we're at, to have a basic idea where your tax bill will fall when it does come out, hopefully in September.
And it's important for people, right, so you say $1 million, and it sounds very arbitrary, but that's $100 on $100,000 worth of value. So if you have a $200,000 home, you're probably going to have a $200 increase in your tax bill, so.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
I think you had already voted that, actually. It was just still a discussion.
Late discussion.
You had,
Oh, I already
you're
voted on
good.
it.
You're
Okay.
good.
All right, great, thank you, thank you.
Okay, our 8th order of business, council workshop and other business. We've got some special guests tonight. I had the school board scheduled first. We're going to move them to 3rd, if you don't mind. I've got somebody else got prior engagements, going to speak a couple times for us. So let's go right into discussing TIF districts.
Yes, thank you, Council Chair, councilors, municipal teams, Michelle and Brittany, and members of the public, Garvin Dunnigan, Central Maine Growth Council, as well as part of the town's Economic Community Development Committee. Lovely to be here, not just because we get to talk about TIFs this evening, but I think a very similar conversation to last time when we were talking about housing or stimulating economic development. Just really quickly, have a high-level overview memo on TIFs. I think there should be about 9 copies in there, mostly to just help frame the dialogue. So really just quickly, I think maybe just to calibrate for the counselors, maybe just a show of hands, you know, are folks familiar with TIFs generally speaking? What is your familiarity? Okay, so just in the most plain spoken language, and there's all sorts of, I believe in your council package, there's a nice flow chart. There's some statutory citations, and there's some bullet points in there today as well. But the most kind of plain spoken is TIFs are probably your best stalwart of an economic development incentive in the state of Maine, tax increment financing, or TIF. Other states have TIFs as well in the United States. Sometimes they're called TIFs, sometimes they are not. This program, regulated in Maine state statute, presents also the town with a ton of authority and prerogative and ability to be creative. What it really is a boundary within your community where you're looking to stimulate some economic activity. Maybe it's to support job creation, maybe it's to protect against blight, maybe it's to try to recruit, expand, or grow a business. So you create this kind of geography of need, and it allows you to freeze the assessed value on what it is. This is often referred to as the OAV, or the original assessed value. And once you freeze that off that original OAV, you can take the new taxes that are generated in that geography or in that district and apply that funding to outlined and planned projects and people in your community. And this is what's often referred to as the increment value. On your last page of your two-page memo, there's table 2 shows a little illustrative representation of that. That big bar in the dark blue, it would be the increment. And you can take that increment and put it into economic development projects, typically defined pretty broadly and as outlined in essentially your planning documents. But wait, there's more. You can then take that funding and apply it to a business, a startup, an entrepreneur, an investor that's maybe also trying to partner with you on a particular project of priority or of economic significance. That funding that you would transfer to that private sector identity is referred to as a credit enhancement agreement. And the namesake of that CEA most simply is often the investor of the business, I'll just use the term developer as a catch-all, can take that agreement to a bank and they can sum the value of that agreement over up to 30 years. And the bank will see that, while just on paper, as a benefit to their loan or their pro forma, and essentially it will enhance their credit worthiness. Because on paper, it will show that new capital that's gained, and that's the credit enhancement agreement. And often our world goes round on credit. So the municipality has this flexible tool to shelter these revenues for its own projects, or share in a project development with a developer that's maybe trying to build a mixed-use development project, housing, or do a project of significance. Another kind of general way to help kind of think about this is the town really earns a stronger dollar when it captures these revenues. And it might be similar to what some of us might do at the end of our personal tax year, where we may try to reduce our income taxes. Well, in many ways, the municipality is able to reduce and shelter its county and state taxation and apply that to agreed upon projects. So at its most simple form, a tool to stimulate economic development. This is regulated in Maine state statute. There's a principle in most governmental judgments, in fact, including in TIFs, called the but-for statement. So particularly when you are doing the CEA portion, that's the portion maybe you partner with a developer, there needs to be certain things. This needs to be a need, not a want, when done appropriately. And when not done appropriately, this is when criticism arises. It needs to benefit the community. There needs to be job creation or some sort of resiliency point that's helping the community. So when we do hear criticisms of TIFs, it's trying to make a bad project good. That's not what TIFs do. TIFs make good projects great and help stimulate activity that you want. Generally speaking, again, the key benefits for the municipality, generally speaking, it helps finance projects without raising taxes. and that's pretty nice. It allows to attract or stimulate development by creating these priority areas. You often see, and as Fairfield has rightfully done, has a downtown TIF, and that's to try to stimulate activity within a particular geography of interest. And then it allows that sheltering of against the municipality's municipal valuation. There's some statutory requirements. I will not go into that. On your page 4, you have a little functional comparison on bonds versus CEA. This is not to be negative to bonds. It's just some folks may be more familiar with bonds, and it gives you just a little bit of example on how they may differ. So really, arguably, TIFs are probably one of your best tools when done well, just like any grant or project. It doesn't hit your liquidity. And really, in many ways, on a good TIF deal, what's particularly wonderful is your risk is relatively low because there's no new taxes created unless there's actually projects going on. You know, this could be the example of maybe we create a grant fund and you deploy the grant out very quickly, but what happens with the project? Maybe it wasn't enough grant money, maybe the project doesn't come to fruition. If the project is not being stimulated, if the developer is not making their investments, then they're not getting reimbursed. There's no money to reimburse on. And again, this is a flexible tool in your toolbox. Maine allows us to do this up to 30 years, and that would be your term length. You don't have to do a 30-year TIF. And then a percentage allocation is typically structured between if you do a CEA, many communities just use this as a finance tool to help fund their projects, but if you go the route of a working in partnership with a developer, you can negotiate the percentage, either 100% of the TIF funding reimbursed, or any percentage you really dream of. Many municipalities, for example, might do just a middle ground, maybe 20 to 25-year term. Maybe you could do the first 5 years is at 100%, and then maybe coming down to 50%, and then 20%, and kind of weaning the developer off that TIF agreement. And that's a nice way to do it. So I'll just pause for any questions. I will also just plug that, and thank you to Michelle for welcoming us in, and after a discussion, the Growth Council, in conjunction with the town and likely KV-COG as well, is going to do a more comprehensive deep dive open to the public on kind of a seminar or a workshop on tax increment financing. We'll bring in some legal technical assistance as well, and have a really nice opportunity to do some information, some training, some learning, and usually at events like this, really great Q&A as well.
I don't have any questions, but once again, I've got to work with you with economic development before. You're a huge asset to our town, so I just want to thank you for coming in. You're a wealth of knowledge. This is something, TIFs are great for a town, so to have somebody with that vast knowledge that we can always look forward to using, I thank you.
Well, thank you, Tim. You know, I'd also just note really quickly, TIFs are powerful, and it's not backslapping. Our success factor in Fairfield is, I enjoy going toe-to-toe with many municipal managers on TIFs collaboratively. Michelle is not one of those people, and has a really deep experience and great familiarity. So this community is really set up to do these type of projects and this incentive really well. So, and we have a great committee that's thinking about these things too, but thank you.
You touched on our downtown TIF, just some examples for our audience and for people watching. Right here, Main Street, we did downtown TIF. You've seen anywhere from signage to facade improvements, quite a bit on Main Street. I can think of a couple projects. So there's been some good facelifts that we use that economic TIF for downtown. And
The demolition of buildings.
demolition of buildings. Again, I've seen siding, I've seen cleanup on brick buildings, brand new digital signage, I think even website at one point.
So the facade and marketing program, so we brought back probably about 5-6 years ago, the facade and marketing program that is fully funded with revenue from our various TIF districts for projects. That's the economic development portion of that you're allowed to use funds on. We have done everything from electronic signage, which is marketing. We've done facade. We've done brickwork pointing. We've done window replacement as a project that we're currently working on, handicap accessibility to storefronts, all of those different things. It's a great, wonderful program that we're able to do and implement and assist businesses with. One of the things that we really kind of glanced over with in Garvin's presentation is that tax increment financing projects are not to be for residential purposes. They do have to be for commercial purposes. And up until recently, solely for commercial and industrial purposes. And then recently, the laws have changed regarding using it for municipal buildings, which we'll get into in just a few minutes. But so the marketing piece was a program that we were able to implement that we could help people who had at-home businesses. Because there are a lot of folks nowadays who run businesses out of their basements or what used to be their den or those sorts of things, and we have the ability to help them with that marketing piece, even though it's a residential property. We can't fix their house, but we can certainly help them do their marketing for their business, so it's a great program.
Michelle, can you remind us of our TIF districts that we have?
So, yes. So one of the things we did create for you was this binder so that you had them. They do all live on our website, I do believe. So we do have our downtown TIF district. That is a 30-year TIF district. We have our industrial park and natural gas TIF district. The industrial park was a 30-year term. Natural gas was a 15-year term. And then you have your Teague Technology Park, Route 201 TIF district. That's one that we recently amended. 2018, I think, is when that one was amended. That includes various tracks up 201, as well as all the properties on Escalon Drive. And then we have one housing TIF, which is the Mountain Ave apartment housing project. And housing TIFs are different than our regular TIFs. Housing TIFs are specifically for housing projects. They typically are standalone lots and projects, as opposed to being large tracts of land, like what our regular economic development TIF districts are. And what we're finding is a lot of these large-scale housing projects, like Garvin was saying, the but-for statements that you have to do, these projects would not happen but for these increments that they get to have back over a period of time. They're highly regulated. They're required to report to us annually. We're required to report to Maine State Housing annually, just exactly what is going on in those facilities, in order for them to get those reimbursements when they make those tax payments. Similar to our other credit enhancement agreements that we have, we do put provisions in them so to make the companies accountable. We don't just cut you a check and send it back to you. We have employment requirements that are supposed to be in them. We have certain standards that they have to meet, and some of them, in all of our newer ones. Some of our older ones are not that way, but those are due to expire soon. Yeah, it is a really great tool, and the town of Fairfield has been able to use it to great success. The Gerald Hotel is another project. It was through the downtown TIF, not a housing TIF, although it could have easily fallen into that category as well. But it was a project that without this would not have made financial sense and could not have happened. So it's a good program.
Thank you.
And then, of course, in your packet, you did have, as Garvin mentioned, we did create the flow sheet for you that does kind of help And then what we did is we put together an example just with how the Gregory's Waste Disposal Credit Enhancement Agreement works with this. Oftentimes, most of our credit enhancement agreements refund a portion of the taxes that they would have paid had it not been sheltered. Gregory project's a little bit different, which is the reason why I wanted to point it out, is that was actually a project. It was for the road expansion that was there that otherwise would have been the municipality's responsibility. So when you look at what that property and its investment, while wonderful, doesn't meet the full amount of what the credit enhancement agreement is when you do all of the math, it was definitely worth the municipality's while to pull off from the reserves that they had already built up within the industrial park TIF district to make that happen. So when the council created this, approved this credit enhancement agreement, those funds for that 15-year period were automatically pulled out of the industrial TIF district, set up in another account, and they get paid back to them biannually based upon their requirements of their credit enhancement agreement. So if they don't follow that agreement, then those funds would then in turn go back to the TIF district because they wouldn't be eligible. So it's, like we said, it's a great tool, but as we mentioned, we had the original assessed value of that property before it started, so when it was just vacant land, it was only $135,000. There was a TIF on it. They had the investment, their new value, once they did all of their construction, was $358,200. So the original $135,000 that was already on the tax rolls, those taxes that were created then, before anything was there, still go to the general fund just like they always did. And then only the new value is what goes into the program. And then the program funds, that gets then in turn deposited into the project cost account, and then it can be sent out to the credit enhancement agreement or for other different pieces. So it is really a good tool. We didn't want to dig too deeply in this evening, just kind of really wanted to give you an overview. Every one of our TIF districts has a project sheet in it. If you have a project that you want to do and it is not in that sheet and in the approved district, you cannot do it, even though state statute says you can use funds for that. If it's not included within our TIF district, we're still not eligible. And the reason I bring that up is that the new change in the law that allows for TIF district funds to be spent on municipal buildings is not in any of our TIF districts and will need to be added before we can do that. So be prepared for additional conversations on TIFs and work that's going to have to be done over the winter in order to make that eligible. So as you continue to talk about all of our buildings and our infrastructure, in order to be able to use TIF funds, we'll have to do that. And
Is that as simple as an amendment to that TIF district?
so it is an amendment, but anything to do with TIF districts, nothing is simple. Nothing is simple. Even amendment is not simple. This is a simpler process than the amendment we went through years later, which 127 days. But they take a long time. They do take a long time. However, this one, it would be relatively simple. We would have to have a public hearing. We would discussing what we were going to add, which is those pieces. There's some numbers that you have to do. We would have to update our sheltering sheet and our project cost sheet with current actuals. So we have to say how much we did actually put into our fund. So TIF districts, when they're created, are based upon the land of make-believe and wishful thinking, all the things you'd like to have. Sometimes they don't come to fruition. You don't generate nearly the amount of money you would like to. So they will request that that sheet be updated, proof of the public hearing, and then the vote. And then what you do is you have to submit to the DECD, Department of Economic Community Development, and they will tell you whether or not that amendment is approved or not. So it has a lot of steps to it.
Yeah.
It's never a quick process, but it's relatively
doable.
It's completely doable. So it's great that we're having this conversation now, and if it, stems any further thinking on this matter, and maybe there is something else that you notice in the statutes that we gave you that isn't in these districts, that maybe we want to add now, then would be the perfect time to do those sorts of things.
Thank you. It's good to know. Good to be prepared.
Be prepared.
So a couple questions. Who makes the decisions on the projects? of whether it's getting approved or forwarded, or how does that work?
The credit enhancement agreements
Yes.
get approved by the town council.
Okay. And another question, I've noticed, as I was looking at some of this, trying to get, I just wanted to listen
It takes a
first.
while to wrap your head around
It's a lot.
I did notice
That's why we got a
that
valuable resource.
some other towns have TIF committees. What are the pros and cons of that? I mean, if something were to happen to Michelle, she gets sick, whatever, gets hit by an ice cream truck, she's the brains of the operation. I could see the benefits of a TIF committee like some other towns. What have you seen on that?
Yeah, there's no statutory requirement on TIF committees. It is not uncommon. There's like a typical composition of a TIF committee. Might be a counselor liaison, a diverse composition from the community, can be subject matter experts, don't have to be. And they'll typically be part of the vetting process and the discussion. Typically, best standards are, though, the negotiation of terms or any confidential business items really does rest, and probably should, with the municipal manager and the executive at the direction of the council. I would note that the town of Fairfield has probably one of the most active economic and community development committees in the region. So in the past, that committee has served some duality of that purpose and will often talk TIFs. So you do have that tool in your toolbox. The committees are all very different because it's case by case, but it does lend itself to what you might see in a standard municipal committee with different charges. Some committees will also have an application process, or they just want to socialize a project, and it wouldn't be uncommon that a developer or an investor enters the downtown or wants to expand. Probably the best first stop is the municipal manager in all cases, in all communities. And then they would call or convene a committee or a TIF committee together. That committee would be introduced to the project, usually 1 or 2 meetings if it's smooth and palatable. Again, probably not negotiating terms in that setting. And then the committee would make a recommendation, like it may on other items, up to the council to arm you, and you may have a council liaison, as you do with your Fairfield Economic Development Committee, and it helps with the continuity of the project. It's allowed for a lot of public input opportunities as well from the community. So it is a nice thing to do, and you have the benefit of a wonderful committee that has at times played that role.
Thank you.
Like any committee, it's important if you establish it, though, you probably want to keep up on it. And some of these committees are also ad hoc in terms of when a project comes in, then they meet, but they may not meet regularly. Some committees do meet regularly.
I think our ECDC is already basically our arm, or our that would handle that committee. They bring it back to us, and if that ad hoc need to be formed. So I think it's kind of already in place to a point when a new project comes in.
Yeah, I believe we've actually had them do recommendations to the council on these before in the past. The credit enhancement agreements are few and far between, but when they do, we always want to make sure that everybody's on board with what we're doing. And just so you're aware, so like, and like Garvin stated, those negotiation pieces, those oftentimes are prefaced with NDAs, and the Growth Council and myself are at the table during those pieces. Sometimes there's a municipal attorney involved. Like they can sometimes be quite complicated and have to very much be protected for, usually that it is at the developer's behest. They do not want that information shared with the public until the ink is actually on those documents, and then it can become public information. But we do have an application process here for it. We do require a substantial amount of financial information from a business. That's the other reason for confidentiality, and that we do everything within our power and then some to make sure that all of that process is very much protected for anybody who wants to invest in our community. It's up to them to share that information, not us. So it is one of the few things that we actually have the ability to discuss in executive session is economic development. It falls under one of those categories, so a lot of that can be very private.
Any other questions, Garvin?
Thank you, Garvin.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and that leads us right into the downtown survey.
I figured since Garvin was here, it was the perfect opportunity to update you on this and ask him any questions that you had. And the Economic Community Development Committee is doing a substantial amount of work with all of this. And it just was, this was finished, the committee's gone over it, and just thought it would be a great time to share it with the town council and let you know what the Economic Community Development's progress has been, so.
Yeah, happy to tee it up. Thank you again, Garvin Dunnigan, Central Maine Growth Council. So switching to the downtown redevelopment plan and the committee, as part of that work, and arguably the most important work, was getting the community input. And this was just one pathway for community input. You also may recall a planning charrette a few months ago, ongoing monthly meetings, and always love to chat. We did do a survey again here as part of that plan. And you should have a overview memo. I think you actually may even have a short form and a long form. Your long form should have a breakout with the appendix of all questions and answers, removed of the confidential names of the individuals, and a highlight of some of the items. I would say, and I think it's fair a little bit to speak for the committee, but certainly from our Growth Council team, we were very pleased with the outcome and the respondent rate of over 100 respondents within, frankly, a really short period of time. It was the survey was open for about a month. It was intentional to keep it open that long, and that's great. For our research methodology, friends and geeks in the room, this is just part of the data and public input mosaic. In terms of the statistical significance of the population based on the 2020 decennial census being about 6.4K, but really important. This will live also in the plan, practically speaking, thinking about the shape, the function, and form of the downtown. Likewise, in the future, hopefully going after grants, this will be evidence-based data to inform and underscore why we think this project's good and why it might make sense for the community. In terms of the prioritization of thinking about the downtown as being defined, number one, new business development. Number two, public spaces. And number three, the ever-present parking, where the surveys feedback on what they kind of wanted to see in terms of prioritization. About 69% of the total respondents believed in investing in the downtown and supporting the downtown's growth. And again, public input was good, and we were very pleased by this. I would say no huge surprises in the survey, but what's probably most important was informing the thinking and the strategy that we're on the right track. And thinking about, when we think about great towns have great public spaces and great parks, and some of the work into Mill Island, we're seeing that over and over in some of our survey work, in some of our discussions, and the feedback from the community. So just a high-level primer on that, and that will live in that downtown redevelopment planning document, the data in the appendix, and we'll probably highlight a few charts in the narrative section.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, very informative. That was a great survey. You guys did a fantastic job.
Thank you. Hats off to the Central Maine Growth Council.
No, hats off to the committee, so thank you.
Stephanie, you've been working very hard at it. Any thoughts that you have on the survey and what the results were? Any surprises, any things that maybe validated your concerns?
Yeah. Let me see. I have highlighted some items. I think one of the first ones was the demographic. What demographic would you like to see grow in downtown Fairfield? And it was for young individuals and professionals. I think getting those, if we can attract businesses that have these people, we would be a much richer community overall, because they bring so much more enthusiasm, and the future looks a lot brighter. So that was one. The others that I saw, what does redevelopment of downtown Fairfield mean to you? And the top answers were increased businesses, and I think you probably alluded to that, Garvin. Increased businesses, business diversity within the downtown, enhanced local employment opportunities, so we have more people from our own area working within our town, and infill of vacant spaces. I think that's one of the biggest concerns that people have going down our main street. Another one, what kind of businesses or commerce would you like to see in downtown Fairfield? People would like to see retail, merchants, artisans, specialty, marketplace, gallery, etc. Food service, like as with restaurants and pubs, bakeries. So I think we're right on with that too. I mean, it can happen. And then the maps that were used, I think, are very indicative of what people want for a downtown area. We spent a lot of time talking about the parameters of the downtown. And in the results of it, and it's hard to see because this isn't color-coded, but maybe Garvin can remember, 65% of the people, let me see, I've got to read that. The above, help me out here, Garvin.
What page are you on,
I'm
Stephanie?
on number 26, question number 26. The above conceptual map illustrates Mill Island's proposed planning zone of the downtown, which encompasses Mill Island in its entirety, including the park. Which of the following uses do you think should be promoted in this zone? And I believe people wanted to see the park.
68% was business and commercial, including food services.
Yeah.
So this idea of, I think, of an urban core, people coming down here to recreate, congregate, do commerce, but also do some food and enjoy, and maybe do more than one thing and be able to bounce around a little bit.
Yeah, and then there were a couple comments in the full results surveys that I thought were really interesting. One actually did talk about Mill Island being a first step to our future economics, and whoever wrote this, I was very pleased, and they even want to be on a committee. So I hope they see this, and they'll join us on September 2nd. Comments about this survey being one of the first great steps to renew Fairfield, and the fact that beautification of our town is needed. So overall, again, the survey itself is very well done, and as Garvin said, it will be incorporated into the draft, into the redevelopment plan for our downtown, and it substantiates the need that something needs to be done. So.
I'm just going to add a little bit to it. I took the survey, and I was very thoroughly impressed with it. I think a lot of the results are the same type of results you're going to see in most downtowns, that young, they want the younger, more foodie stuff, artsy. That's the demographic that spends money. They go out. I was thrilled with the results, because when I look at our board right now, we've got 5 counselors that are basically center residents. I won't say old, but we're not downtown people. Couple business owners that don't have businesses in the town itself. So it was engaging to see this. I spoke to one of my elderly clients today. They love Mill Island Park. They have a place in Benton as well as Lower Main Street, and they spend a lot of time. They like to see the activity and the people walking around. That one said, please don't do a dog park. But they like seeing, the dogs being able to wander, and they've had a good experience. So it's enlightened my eyes as somebody who, I'm a lifelong center resident. I don't travel in town a lot. I travel in town to see Michelle and the meetings. So I'm hoping to open my horizons more and see more what people in town see. But I think every downtown that I go through is experiencing exact same things. When I look at the vacant businesses, it's not just Fairfield. I mean, Main Street, Waterville has a lot, Skowhegan. It's finding those niches. Retail has really changed a lot in the last 15, 20 years, but I think it's getting to the point where people want to be able to feel in touch. They want the retail. They're not necessarily the Amazon shopper anymore. I don't think it's ever going to go away. But back 20, 30 years ago, when that's what we had, you had more vibrant downtowns because people had to physically go and do that type of shopping. But, I think the same feedback. They want more restaurants, more food. We're never going to force the people that own the buildings downtown and tell them what to do with their properties. But as sales go and things change, it could be part of our 5 to 10 year plan. I think you'll see a lot of the things in this survey come to fruition. So it was a great survey. I really appreciate the work you guys did.
Would agree. I think it is, so we talked about our 5 to 10 year plan. I think it's important to use this as part of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not keep it on the shelf.
Correct.
As I read through it, I agree there was a lot of good information in there. I personally put a lot of weight in the written answers because it's easy just to click yes and no's, but if somebody's going to take the time to write their written answers, I put a lot of weight into that. And by far, there was a lot of good comments in the back. I've gone through, made notes, and there are some things that we need to work on as too, eyesores, different things of that nature that we'll look into. I think this is good, and it called out the goods and unfortunately the bads that we need to work on to make things better.
And once the plan in itself has been approved by council, it lays out the groundwork for how we can do things better. So that will be nice.
Government, once again, thank you so much for all you do for us.
Thank you,
Wealth
councilors.
of knowledge, and I'm much appreciative of everything
thank
you do. Okay, we have some other great guests tonight.
Back to the school.
We've at least 3 members here from the school board, and School Board Chair Karen Kuziak. I asked for some time. Thank you for allowing us to put you third on the list, but the floor is yours. Thank you for
I
coming.
guess I didn't have a choice about that, but here I am. And yes, I am Karen Kuziak, and I live in the Shawmut part of Fairfield, and have lived there for 40 years. Raised 2 daughters there who went through the MSID 49 schools, graduated from Lawrence High School. They graduated from Lawrence High School. I would like to introduce 2 members of the board or they will introduce themselves, and then I'll list the other folks. Could you please say your names, just so you know who we are? Perhaps you do know, but, oh, you're going to come up? All right, it is recorded.
Max Kenny. I live out on Ohio Hill Road. Hi, I'm Ryan Warren. I live on Osborne.
So to put names to faces, other board members who are not here tonight but who live in Fairfield are Heather Hussey and Ray Davis Folsom and Rachel Hashi. Our counterparts in Clinton and Benton, so board members from those towns have met with their town government during the summer. We have a budget that we would like to support. It's clear to me, I was going to run through the high-level overview of what the steps were, but it's clear to me that you're at step 2. You're on version 2 of the budget with us. I'll remind you that it is a 2.73% increase over last year's budget. It's coming in at, we cut between budget 1 and budget 2, we cut about $439,000 from the budget. Right now, the bottom line is about $31.5 million. And as I heard several times here this evening, you all know in this building, in this room tonight, that the referendum is on September 2nd, which is the day after Labor Day, during a busy week when families are getting back to school. So that's primarily why we're here tonight, just to talk that up a little bit, the vote that's coming up. Some facts that I think sometimes people overlook, and I know you're well educated about our budget process and well aware of it, but just for the public in general, I have 3 points I guess I'd like to make, and that is that 72% of the budget for MSAD 49 schools comes from the state of Maine, the other taxpayers, and we're part of that too, but other taxpayers pay for 72% of our budget. The rest is, local, and we get some federal funding, of course. 75% of our budget goes towards personnel. It's our employees, the people who are employed by the district, 75% of that budget. Each payroll, this stuck with me when I heard our finance director, Laura Parker, mention this. Each payroll is about $500,000. So that means, and the pay periods are 2 weeks, every 2 weeks. So most month, $1 million going out to pay our employees, except for, and she said, but then we have those months that have the 3 pay periods. So as an employee years ago in other places, you know how it's a happy month when there are 3 paychecks coming in, but certainly it's a challenge for the school district to do that. One of the things that we work hard at, or that I know that our business folks are working hard at, is avoiding having to go out to take out a loan or a bond to make things like the payroll. So as long as the money is flowing in from the state of Maine and from the towns, we're able to operate well that way. We had done some research about how we compare, and we often do research about how we compare, like teacher salary, how are we doing? We want to attract people. How are we doing per pupil spending? And, as you know, we're below the state average for per pupil spending. We're below, would you say that it's safe to say, Ryan did some research about this. He's not going to outline it. Do you have some things? Sure.
So 90%, according to the Maine Department of Education anyway, because I'm new to this, I wouldn't know what's appropriate for the level for the town. But according to the state of Maine, 90% pay more total per pupil than we do in Fairfield. The nearest town that pays less per pupil in total is Caratunk. And then for the school administrative component, 78% of school administrative districts pay more than we do, and we're about $4,800 less, again, according to the State Department of Education, than the average school unit in Maine. So I tried to kind of convince myself, maybe there's some oversight and, maybe this is too much or we need to rein it in, but that doesn't seem to be the case, honestly, from what I can tell. So that was my quick summary.
Thanks. He spent a lot of time on the website for the Maine Department of Education. One thing I will mention is that back in April, right after our first budget was voted on at the board level, we held a meeting for town officials from all of the towns to come, April 17th. I was not there. I understand that Councilwoman Thibodeau was there.
Yeah, along with Tim and Peter.
Great. Thank you for coming. We haven't always had great attendance, and I know it's a hard time of year to have those meetings. We've had 2. We had one in spring of 2024, and then we had one April 17th, I think, 2025. We think we're going to have another one in April. Those are extra outside of the law. We're not required to have those. We just think it's a good idea to have town officials able to talk with us and ask us questions at that time about our budget. Since that time, questions have come up about the budget, more detailed questions. I've directed folks to make an appointment with our superintendent and talk about some of the details in the budget. So I do have an ask for today and for this evening, and that is because, as I mentioned, it's the day after Labor Day. We would love to have folks show up to vote. I know they can early vote now, and we're delighted. I've had some friends tell me they've already early voted. But we'd love to have, if it's possible, the same kind of sandwich board announcements like vote today or elect polls are open, that for the families that are driving by or the voters who are driving by, they see that and go, oh, that's right, it is. The vote is today.
We do those with every election.
Perfect. Okay, so that was our ask to get those out. And again, I appreciate your time and your thinking about this, as I heard earlier, about in terms of, getting our assessments out. And I will say good evening to you.
Thank you very much,
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I want to address this because this is discussion. I just want to address a little bit. We, all 5 councilors attended the last meeting as citizens. And it's hard in the position that I sit in to take my councilor hat off. Some of the residents do not like us to take our councilor hat off, but we do pay taxes and we do have the right to vote. Ryan, you did a lot of good work. I just want to, I have 6 years of school board. I probably know those 279s better than anybody on the school board. I used to do the budget for a long time. Since you spit out some information, I want to correct factual information, and that is that the school budget is $35.2 million. The Fairfield share of that budget is, the local allocation is $5.1 million. The state determines what the EPS share is, and the local share comes in at roughly $3.7 million, and then the school determines what is needed in additional assessment funds, and that's all based on enrollment and tax values and things like that, and gets reassessed, and that gets jumped back up to $5.1 million. But the reason I mentioned the $35.2 million is we've got a new school. I understand that the debt service for that is $3.7 million that the state is paying, which is why you're saying $31 million. That's not true. It's $35.2 million. It's just, once again, a portion of that is state funded, just like 72% of our budget is state funded. It's still taxpayer funded. So when we say we're spending $13,000 per student, we have 1,700 kids, which is down to almost 50% within a decade, and that's $20,000 per kid, not $13,000. It's basic math, and I just want to correct that. That doesn't include the vocational assessment that the state sends directly to the Central Maine Vocational. So again, I just want to correct facts because we are live. I do not want to speak on behalf of the council on anything else. I'll be there to vote as a citizen. I encourage everybody to go vote. I'm not going to try to sway anybody's vote in any way. I don't think that's the council's job. But we appreciate when we are asked to go before the committee, and 3 of us did take the time to go. No other community showed up for that meeting. I personally sent emails to my board, my Fairfield representatives as a personal representative. I asked if it was allowed to do that before I did it. I was told to wait until after the meeting, so I wasn't appreciative of that because I'd like to have answers before the meeting. So in our dialogue as we get better, I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate that you do listen to us, or you do, you try the best you can to make those answers. I also want to reiterate, when we elect school board members, they have delegates to Fairfield, but they are District 49 board members. Their interest is in the best interest of the district, and that's their job. So I don't want anybody to get upset with our Fairfield reps if they don't feel they're not looking out for Fairfield, because as a former board member and a lot of education in school board, former teacher here, there's a lot that goes into it. I very much appreciate what you guys do. Max is on many of our committees. I'm open with him quite a bit on the dialogue with the school as an individual, not as the town chair. But again, I want people to understand that they represent the district, and it is important to get out and vote. And I thank you guys for coming in and speaking on behalf of the school. It's much appreciated.
I do appreciate the expanded dialogue going forward. I think it is valuable. I think this is the first time we ever had anybody come.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic, so. Thank you, all three of you, for being here. Any other questions for the school board? Okay.
And thank you for waiting again.
Yes,
Thank you.
It's outside, it's just around the corner.
Okay, item 4, discuss charter amendment. We should have, I'm going to turn that over to Michelle. I think we have an overview on what we need to do there.
Right. So we've discussed this a couple of times now. Last meeting, it was, and our apologies for not having it on with your original agenda for last week, but this was supposed to go back on with a timeline for you as to what it would look like, and then what we've also done is provided to you what the wording could look like. So, just general, of course, open to changes, what have you, kept it really simple. So if you were to do a charter amendment, it does only deal with Article 2, Town Meeting, Section 200, which is Annual Town Budget Meeting. It would strike the wording that says that it would be held on the second Monday in May of each year, and replace that with after the first day of May, but prior to the 30th day of June. And then would add, the purpose of the annual town budget meeting is strictly for the raising and/or appropriating of funds for the municipal budget. That's active wording already, that's already there. But would add, if there is not an approved municipal budget or portion thereof at the start of the fiscal year, the amounts appropriated for operations in the prior fiscal year shall be deemed adopted for the new fiscal year on a month-to-month basis until such time as the budget for the new fiscal year is adopted. So, what that does is, for any one, as we've discussed in the past, the town council already has the authority to have town meeting articles, any special town meeting articles, be voted as referendum. What you didn't have was the ability to align your town meeting referendum vote with the school budget, which happens in June. So that was not efficient for you to do a referendum vote in May and then to do another referendum vote in June, if this is what you so choose. This allows you that flexibility. It also allows you to continue to have town meeting just exactly the same way that you have it right now, and you can do it in May. Or you could choose as a council to align it with the June election and have it done referendum at the same time as the school board election is done.
So when you're saying that we can still have a town meeting on the budget, we could still go by article,
On the floor.
on the floor, make recommendations. Once those recommendations have been made and voted upon, then it becomes the referendum that would then go to
Nope.
the vote.
No, meaning so the manner of voting is determined by the town council when you call the meeting.
Okay.
Right? So you do a warrant right now that says you will meet and vote there and then, as opposed to a referendum election where you call it to be done and voted via referendum. Okay, so you could still do open town meeting where we meet in the gymnasium and you vote articles from the floor and pass all of those through. So you can keep it exactly the same as it was back this past May. Or you could choose to say that those articles would be voted via referendum and align that with the June election for the school.
My question is how to inform the public of what the articles are. And when we do it
You
here,
still set the warrant.
we do it here in council chambers, but I don't think the public understands what that is really for.
So the process that you have now, which is, it's still subject to public hearing, doesn't change any of that. Still requires the mailer that goes to every single household with an explanation of the articles, doesn't change any of that. All of that is still required.
See, I would like to see that first meeting, when we have the public hearing, I would like to see that be a dedicated night for the budget only, not as part of the regular council
We
business.
could do a special meeting to
It
set.
should be,
You
to me, in
absolutely
my
could do that.
opinion, it should be a special meeting so people can come and question what the articles are and the amounts and make recommendations at that point. Because we need to have that conversation, that dialogue, so people know what's happening. And then, I hate to use the word transparent, but it becomes more transparent by doing that.
I believe when we started this process, that is what we did, but nobody came. So it then in turn was voted by the council to incorporate it within a regular council meeting, because there was nobody in attendance. We had set up the gymnasium, all of those pieces, and there wasn't anybody, there were 3 people there. So
Right.
then they determined, no sense setting up the gym if you could just do it within a regular council meeting, kept the agenda light.
That was quite a few years ago.
That was it was quite a few
I
years
think
ago,
times
back
have
when this first
changed
started,
now,
yep.
And I think people would appreciate having that opportunity. And, if we run it like we do our council meetings and people can be online and again, go article by article by article, I think that people would understand our budget and our process so much better than the way it's being done now.
I think the dynamic changes now to if we had a referendum, then this first meeting would be much more important for people to
Exactly, Matt.
gain education.
Yeah.
Because now they use the budget meeting in May.
Yeah.
That's when they learn a lot about it.
So that public hearing could actually be to set the warrant, much like the school budget has their meeting in the junior high gym, and they
Yep.
that on the budget, and then they
Exactly.
send it to the
Yep.
town for referendum. That's what I've always liked to see it go to, is more of that public hearing, which we're getting overflow now, and it is packed house. It deserves its own special meeting. And then set that warrant, the mailing and everything else would still go out and coincide with the school budget, so you're going to get a better voter turnout for both.
A more informed
A more
public.
informed vote and a larger turnout.
And you've always had the ability to do that with those pieces. So like you said, it doesn't change any of that stuff.
Can we
It's
absentee
just this
vote on a
simple.
referendum for town?
You absolutely do vote absentee on a referendum. So what it's going to do is it's going to mean you're like
Which is
the time-
something we
things
can't
just
do
move
now.
up,
I mean,
right?
when we have it on the second Monday in May, wherever it is.
Right.
And it's set at 6 o'clock, that's it. You know, you
Can't be
work
there,
for the mill,
sorry.
you work for UPS, sorry, so sad. You pay
You
taxes,
can't
you
be
don't
there.
get to vote.
And you can't vote.
So that's always been my proponent, was for the working man to be able to have that ability of a referendum vote. Or you do have a more educated vote instead of you looking at your neighbor to raise your hand. So I'd love to see it more set up that way.
And during COVID, when the governor's executive orders were in place, you had the ability to do that, right? So you could that allowed you to override the charter. That's why we had done town meeting via referendum. And the turnout was so much greater of people who had the opportunity to vote on where their tax dollars were spent. And a lot of people liked that. And I think that's why that conversation has continued since COVID was in place, and because now that those executive orders are expired, you don't have the authority to say we're going to do referendum in June anymore. You certainly could do it in May. You do not have to have an open town meeting in May. You could do a referendum in May, but to do a referendum in May with probably a 40-question ballot, and then to turn around a month later and do another election in June for the school is just not efficient use of taxpayer dollars.
So in looking at the charter amendments, would we specify the public hearing as on a separate day? Would that be included in it? So people know? I'm looking at the back side of the page. So,
So this is the change up.
this would be the change, but
you're
it's
talking
to
about in
November.
May or April when we have the public hearing.
Right.
I think it would coincide when we set the warrant.
That'd be my thought, yeah.
So that doesn't have to be mentioned in the amendment then?
Let me see exactly how it.
I mean, because the council goes to the budget first, it goes to budget committee, and then they get their eyes on it with the departments. And then we go back to the public, once the council's had an opportunity to get feedback from the budget committee.
Yeah, 'cause
And
I
then we
think-
listen to the public. I mean, at that point, we've done a good job of our due diligence.
But I think it needs to be, the process needs to be posted. And so
Be
people can
clearly
read.
defined.
Right.
You're right.
But that's, I
And
think, but
because-
that doesn't need to be in this
Well,
article.
that's what I'm
Because
questioning.
that doesn't need, because.
No, that's
that would
just
still
us
be-
doing our due diligence of getting the signs out and
Right.
and on the
And,
our
and
website.
actually designating a meeting
special
date
meeting.
for
we don't-
a specific meeting.
Right.
That doesn't need to be part of our articles, but it does need to be, as a council, we need to be cognizant of that we need to think ahead and we need to set a
There's a
meeting for
part-
May or whatever it is, that needs to be a specific meeting just to set the warrant and educate.
But in the charter, we could make that happen. We could mention that, the process. And I believe that,
Well, this amendment doesn't force us into referendum. It gives us the opportunity to. You can still have town meeting the exact same way we want. If we want town meeting to be done on that second Monday in May in the gym, that's fine. If the council so decides by charter, if we amend the charter, it gives us the opportunity, when we strike out that second Monday in May, after the first day of May until the 30th day of June, it gives us a timeline to actually have that vote. Where right now, it's set on the second Monday in May. Is that correct, Michelle, or am I?
That's correct. So, but it in keeping with the other piece, so the actual wording for a public hearing regarding town meeting says at least 2 weeks, 14 days, before the date set for the annual town meeting, the town council shall hold a public hearing on each article to be considered at the town meeting. The town council shall post notice of this public hearing at least 7 days before the public hearing in the same manner provided for posting a warrant under the laws of the state of Maine. And then the next section is a sample copy of the warrant with a brief explanation of the article shall be mailed to each postal patron in the town at least 10 days before the date of the public hearing. What that does is that all that states is that you can't hold a public hearing 13 days or less before you vote on the budget. So if the council wants to have a public hearing 30 days in advance, 45 days in advance, you can. But what you have to do is you have to make sure that mailer goes out at least 10 days before that public hearing. And like we've done in the past, so this year, the budget process went a little long because of some negotiations that we had going on with some contracts. But normally, I would recommend that you do one public hearing before you set the warrant anyway, which gives people in general the idea to go over the budget and can give you feedback. And then you do your official public hearing for town meeting after all of that, after that second one. Because then if you do one, which you can do just a general public hearing, post the draft copy of the warrant and let people know what it is you're looking to vote on and get people's feedback on that. Because say that you have 100 people that show up that says, no, we do
So if
not
we
want
did
to
a-
give something. But
If we
you
did a
can do
public
all of
hearing
that
in
stuff.
our regular council meeting, the second meeting of April, just to get that feedback, and then set a special meeting 2 weeks later.
That is just the public
Just the
hearing for
public
the town
hearing.
meeting.
And-
Yeah.
and then
And you can do that, and you
align-
have the authority to do that already.
And then
You just
and
need
we
to let
just
us know
align
that.
it with the school budget referendum vote in mid-June.
Right.
Then that
And-
gives us
and
30 days to get the.
We
the
can
mail
write you
out.
up the timetable for that if that's what council so chooses to do.
Is that work? Is that going to be okay with you, timeline? Because I know you're always looking in January, we're backdating.
We do what we have to do.
Okay.
But that'll be,
We do what
but that'll
we
be
have
I'm
good.
just not trying to look
Right.
for more work.
And what it does is it still requires the public hearing, it still requires the mailer, which are two of the biggest, most important things to make sure
Yep.
everybody in this community knows, because if they don't look at a bulletin board in a particular building, or maybe they don't go into the post office, they don't look at our website, you still sent something to every single resident in this community, whether they own their property and pay taxes, or whether they rent here and pay excise tax. Every single postal patron
Gets the
gets
mailer.
this mailer.
Okay.
That is one of the most important things that we can do to inform our residents. And that has to be done before town meeting, regardless which form you do it. It has to be done before your public hearing, regardless of which form you do. So those components stay exactly the same as they've always been. This just allows you that flexibility to decide, maybe we don't want to do vote on the floor, open town meeting, maybe we want to do referendum. And every single sitting councilor every year will have that flexibility. flexibility. So you will not make decisions and for what's going to be the next sitting council or
Right.
the next sitting council.
Right.
It has that flexibility
It's
to
open
do
in the
both.
charter for them to make the
It's
discretion.
up to them to make that choice.
And I like the additional line where if we do go to a referendum vote, and we've put in there that if the budget, an article doesn't pass, like we're going on with the school budget right now, we're on, vote 2, could go vote 3, vote 4. It gives us a provision to still fund that department up to a year, so that there are last year's funds appropriated. So it gives us some
I
flexibility.
like that too. My concern too, if anything fails, will we have another, when we have a budget like
The next
in
month,
February?
it would be
do we
just
have
that
enough-
article, though. You would,
Just for that, do we have
let's say
another?
Article 5 fails,
That means
Three, like
the
this.
council has to meet on the weekend, just like the budget, then the budget committee comes in.
we'd have to resend it out. I mean, you'd be doing another vote.
So you would do the same exact process like what the school's doing right now, where
Yeah.
theirs didn't pass. You would go back to the drawing board on that budget, figure out what, you get that feedback as to why it didn't pass, correct it, and then you would vote just that article. Right? You wouldn't have to vote the entire budget, just that article. But what that does is, say there's a delay, you decide not to do a town meeting referendum vote until the 25th of June, you don't have enough time to do another election should, say, the public works budget fail.
Yeah.
But that allows you to fall back to an existing number, and then you have time to fix it, because even if you did another referendum vote, you still need at least 30 days. I mean, there's some laws that allow you to shorten the process and all of that. I don't want to complicate anything with that now, but
It gives us a safety net.
it gives you that little bit of a safety net so that you have time to correct a problem, because with a referendum, you don't know that there's an issue until it's too late. So like, remember, open town meeting, you have a number that's put before you, you can always vote to drop it, but you don't
go
get
up.
that flexibility with a referendum. The number's in there, and it's a yes or no. There's no, I'm going to recommend something. So it does give you that,
So
which
if
is
it
which is
fails,
good.
we go back to the drawing board and we put it out to another vote. To me, it's a no-brainer.
So what would be our next step then, is to
I think
put
we-
it under seventh order of business?
So your next step is going to be that if this is how you want to proceed and go forward, we would advertise a public hearing for your next meeting. We'll get this posted so the public can come in and give you feedback on this potential change. And then based upon the feedback at that public hearing, you'll determine whether or not you want that to go forward as a referendum question in November for a vote. Because the council doesn't get to make that decision, you're just putting it forward for a vote. It's the community that gets to vote this through.
Do we need to make this an action item to move forward with the timeline?
Nope.
No, we can.
No, I'm
just-
perfectly content if your consensus
Okay.
is that we advertise a public hearing for the next meeting, and we'll
Yeah.
just do it.
I'll go with it.
Okay,
I would agree. So I think
okay,
Kevin?
good. All right, that's what we'll do.
Okay. Thank you. Great
And
work.
it will be on as an action item at your next meeting.
Okay. All right, other council business. We'll start back with Dr. Townsend.
All right, so for me, actually, there was a case of a car and tractor accident about a half mile from my house last week. And I just wanted to thank the Fairfield Police Department and Fairfield Fire Department for their actions. I went down to assist and see what I could do. And Officer Morrison was on the scene, and he was very professional and very calm and taking care of both the people involved. And I thought he had good control of the situation. The fire department was there taking care of the cars, the spill of fluids from the tractor and the car, making sure that both people were okay. They were just on the scene quickly, and they're very professional, very calm, and just on top of their game. And I just want to say thank you, and the good job that you see in person and see in action. So I think we have some great town employees, and especially on the public service end. I just want to thank them. So that's pretty much my and everybody else talks about personal stuff sometimes. So I do have a wedding this weekend, so I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a sunny day, so I'm wishing my daughter Lydia a wonderful wedding.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Council Lawrence?
Okay, on August 30th, the Grange will have their supper from 4:30 to 6 o'clock. And I'd like to say happy belated anniversary. It was last Saturday. I celebrated 28 years married.
Congratulations.
Happy anniversary.
That's it.
Councilor Thibodeau.
I just would like to remind people of the meeting at 6 o'clock at Mill Island Park for
September 2nd.
September 2nd, to organize the Friends of Mill Island Park for the future of beautification there.
Councilor Kitchen, you had a busy week. Floor's yours.
How'd the glow ride go?
Yeah, I have a couple things. It's kind of been, I've been going back and forth in my head on what happened last meeting with the taxi license, and we had talked about it. I would like to throw out there for discussion in the near future about reviewing and amending that town ordinance that allows us as a town council to use discretion and not just be limited to that. I've done some research. I got some numbers. I think that's worthy of a discussion in the future.
I looked it up. It's a state law.
What's up? I would like to just put it up for
the 10 years is a state law.
So
I think if maybe we'll have to pull that and to talk about it. I mean, we're not going to trump state law. So if that truly is the law, so it's really not going to matter what we.
I didn't bring all my information to counter argue or anything like that.
No, I'm not trying to look for an argument. I looked it up and that's what I had seen. So if you have disputing information, please let's. I agree with you. It's a sad situation. If we can change
there are
it.
other municipalities that have 8, 7 different years on that. So. I maybe not, again, I'd like to have a discussion on it, make sure I'm clear on it, because we did talk about it last time that we could change it, and if we can't, then we'll put it to bed. But I think it's worthy of a discussion.
I will look tomorrow and send it to you if I find it. I know it was a felony statute, so.
I know we had talked a little bit about it.
I'll find it and send you what I found. Thank you.
And the next couple things I was going back through since January, just looking for any loose ends that need to be tied up. We had talked about doing a public announcement for West Street parking, but then I got into it. Is that going to require us to update the public safety ordinance to add that new parking limit to that? And if so, I would assume that would just be an amendment, and that would have to be something that we would have to talk about.
So we changed the ordinance already. I was going to bring that up when I was going to speak. So while you were talking about it, fall sports is coming up. We had amended the ordinance for parking, I want to say back in April or May.
It's in the spring.
Yeah, so it has been changed. Chief Gould had already made those done. Signs were purchased. I believe they have to be redone. Michelle, state law's changing on the signage.
There's still debate on all of that. The law that went through says any parking area restrictions that come with fines has to be posted at its entrance and exit. Maine Municipal Association's attorneys are currently reviewing this law because it could mean that we have to post at the Fairfield Waterville town line and post at the Fairfield Skowhegan line. Its intent was only for public parking lots. Evidently, something happened down in Cumberland. Somebody parked somewhere and ended up owing a bill for thousands of dollars. So the law was created and put into place and voted through. There was amendments done at the 11th hour. And it looks as though it's not necessarily legal, so we're still waiting on that. But it may be that all of our no parking signs or parking limited signs with a fee attached to them, the fee actually has to be posted on the sign, which means every single one of our parking signs will have to be replaced, or we wouldn't be able to assess a fee. But parking fees is on your fee list as potential fees you need to change. So we're not changing any signs anymore until we get that fee list done and there's some clarification on that. But that is currently posted of no parking up there in front of that area of the school, which is from the school's driveway all the way to Savage.
So with our ordinance, it's basically going to cover the front parking lot of the school to the football field up by the old, it's going to be mainly handrails property
Yeah,
on West Street.
goes to
So there'll be
Center
no parking during the school season, I believe, is what the ordinance says. So those, those getting ready for football season, band, whatever, take note that there's no parking on that side of the road on West Street.
And there's already no parking on the other side of the
On the
road.
other side.
Yeah.
There was a couple other parking spaces that we also amended with that ordinance. I'm not
Yeah, there's some
privy
on
to
Main
which
Street.
ones.
There's lots of parking restrictions all over town, whether it be the Main Street area, around the school, around our parks, all of that. We always encourage people, if you have any questions, to please check out that parking ordinance, which is located in the public safety ordinance. It's the parking section. And obviously, if you have any questions, feel free to give us a call, the police department a call. Anybody can help you out with that.
So fall sports started Monday. Just a reminder again, your football band, the big parade, the homecoming parade. Just a reminder, there's no parking on West Street. So back to you, Councilor Kitchen.
Yeah, did we ever rename the fire training facility? I know I was going back through in May, there was conversation, Senator Searway put in the LD to rename it for Dwayne Bickford. That was still open. I went through, I found the LD, it was approved and signed by the governor May 16th, so maybe we can look in the future about doing that. I didn't know if we had already done it before my time or not, but I just didn't see closure in all the minutes.
I don't believe so.
I'm fairly certain the council adopted that, but either way, it did go into law. We just it didn't come with any funding to change the sign.
Okay.
So we just haven't changed the sign. But, yeah.
The last thing I had was, I wanted to thank the police department for supporting the ATV Club's Glow Ride. They were great. We had 3 members of the police department there, Chief, Officer Santamine, Officer Morrison led the Fairfield portion of it with the ATV all lit up. They did a great job coordinating with Waterville Police Department, Oakland, and just really making sure it was a safe event. We raised a lot of money. The preliminary numbers are, we haven't, as a board, had an opportunity to do our final audit with it yet. The event raised $3,960 for supporting our seniors. And the food pantry over $4,000. That will be what we're getting. That includes Walmart also stepped up. We had our event there. That includes Walmart donation of $1,500 to each one of those organizations as well. So pretty close to $4,000 going to each one of those charities. So I wanted to thank all of our members out there. The town of Fairfield, I know Michelle is helping the club, working through some grants and stuff like that through the state. I think it's a community type event, and it went off very well. So I want to thank everybody that helped us make that happen.
How many participants did you have?
We had over, I don't know the exact number of machines, 360 to 375, and well over 1,000 plus people. It was. Our board did a really good job with it. Yeah.
I sat on Ted Lot Road, watching go by.
We did have a little bit of I know for our Fairfield residents, I was talking to Brittany about it. We had a breakup in the parade coming through Fairfield, Murphy's Law, as we're coming up through Colby College. Of course, the train comes and broke our line in half. So you got to see 2 different parades, I guess.
Yeah, it was great. My
Lots
kids
of
loved
candy
it.
for the kids. It was great. We're looking at doing it again next year. And we're also we're going to continue to look at trying to get into Fairfield and do something potentially in the fall. But that's on the plate of us to work on right now. So again, thank you to the police department. They were awesome. That's all I have.
You guys did a great job. I get to watch it because they go right by my house. And even watching some of the Facebook Live and seeing the groups that there with tents and Walmart. I know you'll have some radio coverage next year, so I hope you take advantage of that. They were there. They did a live, so
Yeah.
I can throw Jay Hansen your way, and I think they had a good time watching it go by as well. So.
It was good. I mean, doubled probably what we expected we would raise when we split into two charities, and it worked out great. We ended up giving more to the food pantry this year than we did last year, and I was pretty much matching that with the supporting our seniors program at the Grange. So great community event.
Thank you.
Gives me goosebumps.
Anything else?
No.
Okay, I'll go last. So, school season starting up again. Let's be aware of our school buses, all our families with kids. School board was here tonight. I want to reiterate, we support our schools. As much as I may fight about budgets and things like that, I believe heavily in public education. I do a lot for our schools personally. I support them. All our employees, school district's the largest employer in our area. So I wish them a good start to the season. Hope they're safe. A reminder again on the parking ban on West Street during the school season. And the school boat is September 2nd. Right here at the community center, 8 to 8, Michelle? 8.
Yes.
So 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., you can vote for the school budget right here at the community center. That's all I have. Okay, the next regular meeting of the Fairfield Town Council will be on Wednesday, September 10th, 2025, to be held as a hybrid meeting in council chambers and via Zoom at 6:30 p.m. Recess. At this time, council will recess and sign all documents that require the signature of council members.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
How about a motion to recess? is what you
Motion to
meant.
recess.
Motion to recess, yeah.
Don't get ahead of yourself.
Done.
Gotta sign.
Why does my
Gotta
sheet
sign, yeah.
Sounded